I've thought of ways in which to introduce Mr. Warne, and the best way I've thought of introducing Shane Warne is simply that he is one of the 5 Wisden cricketers of the century, and actually the only bowler, the only pure bowler in the list of those 5 great cricketers. That must make you feel pretty special, given the fact that there is no other bowler but Shane Warne in the 5 top cricketers of the century.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me. Yeah, it's a pretty amazing. It was in year 2000. I think they had 100 ex-test captains from every single playing nation, and they voted for their top 5 cricketers of all time. And to be included in the top 5 of all time at that stage in 2000 was blown away. Just to, when you talk about some of those players, the other 4, Bradman, Hobbs, Garfield, Sobers, they played a fair while ago. Sobers was arguably the greatest cricketer of all time. And you think of Don Bradman was the greatest batsman of all time. Jack Hobbs was an amazing player, one of the greatest of all time. So those 3 were in the past. And then Viv Richards was also there. He was a more recent player, finished in 91. And then myself. So to be the only sort of current day player in the last 25 years to be included in that was at a pretty amazing time when we've had so many wonderful cricketers, whether it be the Brian Laras, Sachin Tendulkars, all these guys. To be voted ahead of your peers who you're playing with at that time was absolutely mind-blowing, and I was very surprised by it. The other thing is that they're all Sir. It was Sir Don Bradman, Sir Jack Hobbs, Sir Garfield Sobers, Sir Vivian Richards, Shane Warne. I know it's a long way to Australia, but hopefully one day in the post they might have a Sir come along somewhere in the post, but it's a long way to Australia.
Why have they not knighted you as yet? Is it because...
Let's not go there. There's plenty of reasons why they haven't. So.
I was about to ask
let's just leave that one. I think let's just leave that one.
But I'm sure they will.
Yeah,
I'm
one
sure
day.
Times will change.
All I can say is I'm hopeful one day, maybe, yeah.
Okay, I just want to know, if you had to choose your 3 batsmen that you bowled to in the time that you played this great game, as your top 3 batsmen that you as a bowler had the privilege of bowling to, who would they be in some kind of an order?
Well, I think Sachin Tendulkar and Brian Lara are the 2 standout batsmen of my time. I finished playing Big Bash cricket in 2013 and I started in 1990. So 23 years of playing sort of at the top level. Played some wonderful players, but Tendulkar and Lara were the best 2 players of that 25 sort of years of being at the top, I suppose. I don't think, we've got some wonderful players in Jacques Kallis and Ricky Ponting and all these guys, but I think Tendulkar and Lara were the best 2. Then there's sort of daylight, and then you can go Kallis, Ponting, Seaver. They're all great players, those other guys, but I think Lara and Tendulkar was something special. So those 2. And the third one, you'd probably have to put Kallis in as a cricketer rather than just batsman, because Lara, Tendulkar were the best batsmen, but as a cricketer, Jacques Kallis of our era, to take the many wickets, runs, catches and everything he did, he'd probably have to be included in that top 3.
What was it about Warne versus Tendulkar, particularly in India?
Yeah.
Where he seemed to always get the better of you. But, and as Indians, we sort of relish the idea of Tendulkar sort of taking on...
I never got the better of Sachin. Sachin smashed me all over the park, no matter where it was, whether it was India, Australia, wherever we played. He smashed me all over the time, so that's fine. But I love the battles. Occasionally I'd get him out. I don't know how many times I got him out. Not many, not enough, but I got him out a few times. But, he was such a wonderful player. For me, it was difficult to play. The 2 trips I had to India that sort of were great were 98 and 2001, those 2 series, where India were the better side and deserved to win. I came off a shoulder operation and a finger operation. That's no excuse, but I wasn't at my best, which was a real shame, because in 91, when we played in Australia, I think Sachin was about 12, and he made 100 in Perth, he made 100 in Sydney, and it was my first test match. And unfortunately, we had to wait, I think, 7 or 8 years for the next test match, which was a joke. It was ridiculous we had to wait that long. Sachin had played for 10 years. I think I had played for 8 years then, and we'd only played a couple of test matches against each other. And unfortunately, then I had my shoulder operation in 98, which put me out for nearly 15 months. After that series, because they knew how important that series was in India to play, and also I wanted to play because I hadn't played against India since I was horrible in my first test match, and I thought that over that next 7 or 8 years I did pretty well against everyone. whether it would be Pakistan and Sri Lanka on the subcontinent where they generally play spin as well. India, we just never got the chance to play. So for me, I didn't want to have my shoulder operation before that series because I knew I'd be out. So I said, I've got to go. And unfortunately, I didn't bowl as well as I would have liked. But having said that, it's not an excuse. And then 2001, I had my finger operation, which I was out for 12 months. So I was really disappointed with that. Then 2004 came, that series to India. And I bowled pretty well through that whole series. I think I took 14 or 15 wickets in the first 3 tests. Laxman out both innings first time in the first test after he made that wonderful knock in the previous series. But then I broke my thumb again in the nets when Michael Clarke came on and took 6 for 9 in Mumbai and the game was over in a day and a half. The wicket was turning like this far. So once again I was injured before that test match, which was a real shame. But experience India was exactly that, an amazing experience to play in India and to play against, I believe, some of the best players of all time. And let alone, you know, when you look down that Indian side in the late 90s, early 2000s, whether it be Sehwag, Dravid, Tendulkar, Ganguly, Laxman, you know, they had 5 quality players. And when you're coming up as whether you're a fast bowler, spinner or whatever, when you're coming up against that quality side, who all play spin well, it's really hard. It's really difficult. And I struggled against those guys most of the time. I seemed to do okay against Rahul for some reason. But the rest of them, they sort of just smashed me all over the park. But it was good fun. I loved it. And then to experience India with the IPL and the younger guys, it was just an amazing opportunity. And to captain coach some young kids who no one had ever heard of. My experiences and memories of India are very fond. I love always going back to India. I love the experience of India. And I love the passion of the fans. That's the most important thing. It's great. It's really good.
Because you've got a peculiar love-hate relationship in that sense with Indian fans. I mean,
There's no hate. They might hate me, but I love them.
Yeah, in a sense that every time you came to India, there was always, you know, you carried this aura around you, and it sort of served you brilliantly during the IPL. What is it about India that was for you the best thing about touring? Was it the passion of the fans? Was it playing on turning wickets, testing your skills against the best players of spin bowling?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of all of those things. I think mainly it was the passion of the Indian fans. As a cricketer who, I love cricket. I love the game of cricket, and I'll try and help anyone I possibly can, no matter what country they're from, whether it's a young spinner, a captain, whoever wants to help or a talk or a chat, I'm happy to do that. To go back to India and see the passion they have and the love the Indian fans have for the game of cricket, that's what I really enjoy. And playing in front of the Indian fans, whether it be for the Rajasthan Royals, whether it was for Australia or whoever, I felt that they respected what I did. They knew how hard leg spin bowling was. They knew how good a players those great players of India were of spin. So they loved to see that contest. And I suppose what people loved to see was Tendulkar versus Warne. Unfortunately, Tendulkar smashed me all the time, which I suppose the Indian fans loved more often than not, because I remember, I think it was it the 98 series, the first time we ever played, after that first test I was talking about 7 or 8 years later, when we were both at the top of our games before I got injured. But the first innings, I remember the whole build-up was Tendulkar versus Warne, what's going to happen this time, blah, blah, blah. And we got to the first test match, and I just took a wicket, I'd just taken a wicket. Sachin walked out, and everyone went, you know what it's like, Sachin. They all went absolutely berserk. And we were in our huddle, because we just took a wicket, and we were talking about, okay, let's try and make a statement early and get Sachin out early. And I said, I'll get Sachin out early, don't worry. So I was at the top of the mark, and I think it was the first ball I bowled, he smashed me down the ground for 4. The second ball he played and missed, and I think it was either the third or the fourth ball, he nicked it to Mark Taylor out for 4. And I'd never heard a crowd go from so loud to so quiet in the space of 3 deliveries. It was, you could suddenly hear yourself talk. It was actually quite nice. But then through that series, the next innings he came out and played one of the greatest knocks, I think, against Australia in my time. I think the 156 or 158, was it? He made in the 158. In the second innings was an amazing knock, and probably the best 100 that I've seen against our attack, the Australian attack. Even though in that time we didn't have the McGraths and all those guys, they were all injured and didn't play, but it was still an unbelievable 100 and the best 100 I've seen against an Australian side that I played in.
In that sense, would you say that the Indian batsmen are perhaps the best in the world that you've seen against spin because they use their feet? Out of all the players that you've played, you've come to this country.
I wouldn't mind bowling to the Indian team now. I think
really?
the Indian team now is a lot different to the Indian team when you'd look at Ganguly, Tendulkar, Dravid, Laxman, Sehwag. You back those five up against the current five. I'd fancy my chances against the current five. Virat Kohli might be an issue. He's a wonderful player and the best batsman in the world, in my opinion. But I reckon I'd fancy my chances against the rest. Compared to what it was like bowling those other type five guys, those guys in that late 90s and early 2000s were the best players of spin. The current Indian side, I don't believe are the best players of spin anymore. There's better players of spin around. They're still very good players, but they're not as good as those five guys were playing spin bowling.
That's an interesting observation because there are many who believe that today...
Moeen Ali was taking 5 and 6 against him.
That's
He's
right.
a part-time off-spinner.
So I'm just wondering whether...
In England conditions.
I'm therefore wondering, that's an interesting observation. Are today's batsmen
No.
not as good
No.
players of spin than they were in your
No.
time?
Simple answer, no.
They're not as good?
No.
Is that because they don't use their feet as much? Is that because they tend to give you more of a chance because of the way the game is played? They tend to lift the ball in the air early enough? Is it because there aren't enough quality spinners across the world?
That's the point. When you look at if you look at the team in, say, the mid-90s, and they all had some quality, whether it was Akram Yunus, whether it was Ambrose Walsh, whether it was McGrath and Brett Lee or McGrath and whoever, Donald, De Villiers, you look around, they all had quality fast bowlers opening the bowling. And then you back that up with, whether it be Anil Kumble, Sakleen Mushtaq Ahmed, Daniel Vittori, myself. There were some other quality spinners around. I've probably forgotten one or two. Whether even you played Zimbabwe, you come up against Paul Strang, who was a good bowler. So the quality of spinners that all the teams used to face, you had to become a very good player of spin, no matter what team. Like I look at our Australian team, Darren Lehman, Mark Waugh, Damien Martin, these guys were very good players of spin. I mean, you look at Murali's record when he came to Australia, he averaged 80 with the ball. These guys whacked him because Ashwin, when he came to Australia, I think he averages 60 or 70. They whack him because they were good players of spin. Now they're not up against the quality of spinners from all the countries. So a lot of the players, whether it be Indian players, Australian players, you watch when the side loses, generally it'll be to spin. Generally the spin bowlers will win the game because the opposition batsmen don't play them well, no matter what country they're from. So I think as a whole, I'm not saying that the players in general are not as good as those players. I'm saying against spin in turning conditions, the players across the board from all countries aren't as good because they're not up against the quality spinners from every team that they used to face.
Interesting again because we are here before a champion.
Stephen O'Keefe, he took 7 for in the first innings. He didn't bowl a turn a ball. He bowled straight breaks.
Yeah, the
But
Indians
he bowled well, and the Indians were playing for turn. He took 7 wickets.
The reason I'm asking you this is because we're here in England before the Champions Trophy in late May, early June, where normally the ball should move and spinners you would expect won't have much of an impact. But given the fact that very few quality batsmen play spin well, do you believe spinners will have a role in this Champions Trophy, or do you believe in early June in England you have to win with pace?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm sure all the teams are looking at those tactics because generally you would say in May and June it's very hard to face the new ball. In one-day cricket, the seamers will bowl. There's good quality seamers, especially England have got some good seamers. So whoever's got the best fast bowlers, which I put India right up there now. Some of the fast bowlers India have are as good as anyone in the world.
You think we have the best, as good a pace attack as anyone in the world today?
Yep. And I think it's a pleasure for an Indian captain like Virat Kohli to have now to some of these quality fast bowlers. If you get conditions, that's why India are the best side in the world at the moment. No matter what the conditions, they have it covered. You've got Ashwin and Jadeja, 2 good spinners. You've got quick bowlers that you can rotate between 2 or 3, depends on the conditions and who's injured but you've got depth. So as a captain, no matter what the conditions, if the opposition want to prepare a seaming wicket, you've got the quality of that and backed up by good spinners. And then if you've got a flat wicket that turns, you've got fast bowlers that can bowl reverse and you've got 2 quality spinners. That's why India are such a good side at the moment.
Are we therefore the favourites for the Champions Trophy? You're not saying this because you're before an Indian media organisation. No. You're saying the fact is India probably has the best balanced team in the world at the moment.
I think they've got the best balanced bowling attack. I think that, I didn't say the batsmen, I said they've got the best balanced bowling attack for any conditions that come up. Whether their batsmen can handle some of the other opposition fast bowlers on seaming tracks, I'm not sure, because that means they've got to test their technique on some fast, bouncy wickets that might seam around, which they're not used to. They've been playing in India now, what have they played, 14 tests or something in a row on flat wickets at turning. So it's a little bit different. Yes, they've been playing the IPL now, which is 20 over cricket, so it's a little bit, they're getting used to this 50 over cricket for the Champions Trophy. But I look at their bowling and I think their bowling's good, but they rely a lot on Virat Kohli with the bat, especially in these conditions. You look at some of the other sides, I think no one's really talked about Sri Lanka. I know Sri Lanka have lost a few of the big names, but I think they'll play okay here. I think they're Sri Lanka and New Zealand. New Zealand always play well in these big tournaments. They always get to the sort of last four or so. So I think New Zealand, Sri Lanka are a bit of the underdogs. The favourites obviously are India and Australia. I think they're the two favourites. And I think that...
Shane, you're not mentioning England. What is it about you and England? You know, you...
I was about to get to England.
You came here year after year and you destroyed the English. They almost saw you, just as the Indians took you on, the English saw you and got intimidated by Shane Warne. There was something about you that made the English, men and women, in a sense...
I think the England side in the Champions Trophy, I think that they will play well here. I don't think there's a clear number one side in the world at the moment. I think there's a lot of good sides that are pretty even. And if you play at home, you'll generally win. And whether it be Australia, South Africa, India, I think whoever plays at home will generally win. So there's not too many away teams winning series at the moment. That's why I don't believe there's a clear number one. I think there's India, South Africa and Australia are probably the three best sides in the world. But if they're playing in Dubai, Pakistan could win. If they're playing in England, England could win. So to me, England are a chance. You can't write them off here because they're in their home conditions. And the home teams generally perform well.
You didn't answer my question. What is it about Shane Warne that you were able to intimidate the English so successfully? From the time you came here and bowled what was called the ball of the century, to dismiss Mike Gaddy, every time you came to England, the English just didn't know how to deal with Shane Warne. Why?
They weren't the only team, mate. There was Pakistan was... Thank you. Yeah.
But particularly the English.
I think I've got the best record against Pakistan.
That's right.
I think my best record against any team is Pakistan. So you say, well, Pakistan generally played the spinners well, whether it would be in Pakistan or wherever. So why did it do well against Pakistan and intimidate Pakistan, but not the Indians? It's one of those things that I put down a combination of those five guys. I think people underestimate how good Ganguly, Dravid, Tendulkar, Laxman, and Sehwag were, those five. They were fantastic players. Don't underestimate how good they were. They were wonderful players and we miss watching them play. I miss watching them play. Sehwag at the top of the order, I miss watching him play. He was great to watch. And some of those players I just mentioned for India were great to watch. But I go to Pakistan, I go to Sri Lanka, West Indies, India, England, South Africa, whoever else, New Zealand. I did pretty well. I just struggled a couple of times. 2 tours in India I struggled, partly due to those five guys being so good. And also, without trying to make an excuse, I had a shoulder injury, shoulder operation and a finger operation, 2 major ones that put me out for over a year. So I wasn't at my best against really 5 top quality players. That's probably why I didn't perform as well and my numbers weren't as good when I played in India.
If the Australians told you, Adam Zampa's injured, Shane Warne, are you free to play a 50-over game? Would you think of it? I mean, when I look at Zampa, I think that, Shane Warne at his best, Shane Warne even today is probably a better bowler than Adam Zampa. So if the Australians ask you to, have you ever thought...
I'm not going to answer that one because that could come out really bad. I'll let you say that. I'm not answering that. Adam Zampa's a very good bowler.
But have you ever thought in all the years that you played a few T20 tournaments around the world since you retired? Do the fingers still itch to sort of bowl? Do you still want to bowl on... I'm told that even today when you bowl in the nets, after a couple of balls, it still lands on the spot. Is that true? Sort of.
Yeah, it is true, I suppose. I like coaching young kids, and when they bowl, we generally have a bowl, and I like to be able to still... I'm lucky enough that I can still show them different things, whether you bowl wide of the crease and the reaction that has to the ball, or in close to the stumps and the reaction the ball has, or a few different deliveries and how to bowl them. It's still nice to explain to a younger player how that actually works. If you can't physically do it, you can talk about it, but it's still nice to be able to do it. So a few times that I just did one recently for Star TV during the Australian-India series when I was over there. I did something with Mark Butcher and the guys in the nets.
I saw that.
And we'd talk about how you'd set up players. And I love the strategic and tactical side of the game, no matter what form. And to be able to do that and still be able to bowl and show those guys how you'd set a field, and this is how you'd bowl to certain guys. The guys that like to drive, this is how you set them up for it, this is where you have your catches. Still to be able to physically do that, I'm lucky to be able to do that. I'm not sure I could do that for, a test match and bowl 35, 40 overs, but in a 2020 game, a couple of overs, I'm sure I can still do that okay, even though I'm nearly 50.
I'm going to take a couple of audience questions, but before that, your favorite memory as a cricketer over a career in which you took, more than 700 test wickets and won numerous man of the match awards. Is there a memory for Shane Warne that defines the Shane Warne legacy?
I think for me was Australian side. I was proud of the Australian side, and that we were able to beat every single team home and away. We won away against everybody, we won at home against everyone. And I don't think there's too many teams in the history of the game that could play to say that they'll be able to beat every single side home and away. And to achieve that means you've got great variety in your team, you've got good imagination, you've got a great guys that can adapt to any conditions, longevity in the game, guys that were tough, that would fight through injury and still keep playing even though they weren't at their best. So to play with a good group of guys and to be able to achieve that sort of success, I think was pretty amazing. Met some great people along the way, and that journey from both opposition teams and home teams that I played with. And for myself to have a little bit of success along the way, to take a few wickets and hopefully entertain people when they came to watch. When I had the ball in the hand, it was more exciting to watch the game of cricket. I hope that that's what people thought, and they enjoyed watching the Australian side play and me bowl. I think that's something I remember.
Is that how you would like to see yourself, as an entertainer?
Yeah.
We see you as possibly, as I said, the greatest spinner the game has produced, but many will see you as possibly one of the finest entertainers. Is that how you approach the game, that you wanted to go out there and entertain people at the end of the day?
Yeah, I always played to try and entertain. I think that people, I think when you sit there, you just wanted to go out and have some fun and let your character show and have some fun out there and do the best you can. And I'd like to think that I would put on a show that was entertaining no matter what it was. Even if I was getting smashed around or I was doing well, it was still good fun to watch.
No regrets that because you were seen as such an entertainer, that's why they're still restraining from calling you Sir Shane Warne.
Yeah.
It's the entertainment. It's part of the entertainment off the field, on the field.
Oh, look,
and the fact that they never made you captain as a result. Many say that you were the best cricketer not to captain Australia in a test match.
Well, first of all, the Sir thing, as I said at the start, I'm sure Australia's a long way away. It's just taking a little bit of time to get there. The rest of the stuff, yes, I'm an entertainer. And I like to be remembered for everything that I did. I don't have any regrets because I can't change them. I can't change anything that happened yesterday. I can't change anything that happened 10 years ago. So there's no point regretting it. There's no point doing whatever. As a captain, when I did have the opportunity to captain sides, whether it was the Rajasthan Royals, whether it was Hampshire, Victoria, Australian one-day cricket, I like to think that I did an okay job and people enjoyed playing under my captaincy and the way we played. To not have the opportunity to do it for Australia is fine. It's not something I sit here and go, damn, I wish I had captained Australia. I don't give it a second thought. So, yes, it would have been nice, but it didn't happen. I was lucky enough to experience some wonderful captains. Alan Border and Mark Taylor were the two standout captains that I played under. Ricky Ponting and Steve Waugh were different to Border and Taylor. Taylor was the best captain I played under because of the way he communicated with his players. Alan Border showed me as a young kid when I first started what toughness was and what it meant to play cricket for Australia. And I'd like to think that I installed that as a senior player in the group as any of the guys came into the side, that I would try and help them and keep that going from what Border and Taylor left. And I think that the other guys, Steve Waugh and Ricky Ponting, they inherited some very good sides.
They did indeed. You were part of a great Australian side. Let's just get in a couple of questions. One of the young pups, as they called it, who you sort of, in a sense, encouraged is here with us, Michael Clark. You have a question for Shane Warne, I see.
Got a question for Shane, yeah.
Yes.
Nice to see you, Shane,
G'day,
firstly.
Papa, mate. Yes.
Well, 2 questions. First one, who was your favourite teammate?
Yes.
I'll answer that for you.
That would have to be Michael Clark, obviously. That would have to be Michael Clark, yes.
Thanks, buddy. I guess the more serious question, the one thing I've always loved about you was how you handled difficulties off the field and didn't allow that to affect your performance. And that was one of the major things that you taught me from a young age. And I guess I'm really interested for everybody here to hear that as well, how you could handle, the pressure, the expectation with what comes with playing cricket at the highest level. These days, it's not just about what you do on the field, it's off the field, and you become a celebrity and you become famous. How did you deal with that all the way through your career and yet still be able to walk across that line and perform as well as you did?
Yeah, look, it's not an easy thing to do, and you make a few mistakes along the way. There's no school you can go to get taught what to do when it basically hits the fan and things aren't going great off the field, and you have to walk up and in front of 190,000 people and play a test match, and things aren't going great for whatever reason. It might be something really bad has happened to your family, in your family, or it might be something personal to you, a fight with a friend, a loved one, something wrong with your kids. There's a lot of things that the players deal with that people might not understand. And to be able to walk out onto the gate and walk out onto the field and basically forget about that and perform on the field it takes a lot of mental strength to be able to do that. And I think the easiest way to do it is the preparation leading up to the game is really important to sort out those issues. So sometimes it's a last minute thing, but whatever it takes, the days leading up, when people talk about preparation, those preparation days isn't just physical training in the nets. It isn't just batting and bowling. It's getting all your other stuff sorted out, your life sorted out, whatever it is that's on your mind. So you'll be able to have the clearest mind you physically possibly can when you walk out onto that ground. That gives you the best opportunity to play at your best. Now, whatever that means, you've got to make a tough phone call, a tough conversation to have with someone, whatever it might be, diary schedule dates, things you need fixed, whatever it might be, little things like even a car tyre. Get it fixed before you have to go out and play. Anything that's on your mind, anything that's in there that's giving thought, you've got to get rid of it before you play, because that allows you then to have 100% concentration on whatever it is that you have to do that day. Now, we might lose a toss, we're bowling, suddenly it's day one, I'm a leg spinner, it's not ideal, but I need to make sure that I can do my role for the team. I can't do that if I'm clouded in my head. If I've got so many things going on in my brain that I'm thinking else about, that means I can't 100% concentrate on what I have to do. So by eliminating those things, that preparation mentally is just as important as physically catching balls, having a hit, bowling, all those things. It's really important stuff that people sometimes underestimate how important they are.
Gideon Haigh, the Australian cricket writer, wrote a lovely book on you where he says that you saw...
I think that was number 13.
That was book number 13.
Unauthorised biography, number 13.
It wasn't, but it was very well written.
Was it? It didn't have my approval. But
I know he didn't have your approval, but he said that the moment you came on the cricket field, you became the showman. And the field was your stage. And the bigger the crowd, the more you got sort of, you loved the idea of being there on stage, in a sense, taking on all these thousands of people, some of whom were your critics, and you just loved proving them wrong again and again.
Yeah, I was never one about proving critics wrong. I never did anything. Look, a lot of people say, don't read newspapers, don't read this, don't read that. I used to read everything, because I always believed if one of my friends would ring me and say, did you read what Gideon Haigh you're speaking about, that Gideon Haigh wrote about you? It's always going to be worse when they tell you than what it actually is. So I always used to read everything, and then I would actually read it and think, well, this guy's got a job to do, and I don't really care who is this guy, so I wouldn't worry about it. If it was a Richie Benaud or an Ian Chappell or someone that I really respected that wrote an article and was critical of me, I would go and find them. I'd go and find Richie, I'd go and find Ian Chappell or whoever it might be from any country, and then I would actually go and speak to them and say, look, I read your article, I'm interested in why you thought that was the case, whatever it might have been. And then you'd have a general conversation about it. And then you'd say, okay, well, I disagree with you. I wouldn't then go out and play to try and prove him wrong. I played to try and do the best I could for my team on that given day, whatever that was. And as a person, People criticise you, they say great things. It has no influence on my life.
Do you read
What
the,
people write.
Did you read the sports pages only, or did you read the gossip and
I read
celebrity
everything.
pages as well?
I had to read everything because I was in both. So, but I would generally start at the back. And so the
That's what I thought.
So the good stuff would be first, and then I'd flip it over and worry about the bad stuff second.
Okay, let's just get one audience question. Yes, the gentleman there. Yes.
Is someone smoking out
mic?
there? I think I'm up here. It's not me.
No, not to worry. That's
Okay.
that's for our next session about to start. Yes, go ahead.
Right, okay.
Hi, Shane. Thanks for coming to London Business School.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. What is your best format in one day, 2020 or Test cricket? Which one did you love to play? And are you worried about the future of Test cricket, given some lack of crowds, particularly in the subcontinent?
First of all, the first part was what's my favourite format of the game? Is that right?
Yeah.
And secondly, do I worry about Test cricket in the future? Is that the two questions? My favourite format of the game is Test cricket. I think Test cricket is exactly that, it's a test. But it's very important to still have 50-over cricket and 20-over cricket playing because they all help each other. And Test cricket is played a lot more positively now because of 2020 and 50-over cricket. So I think it helps. But I think what we need is the current day player to still understand that they want to test themselves against the best. Now, if they get fantastic contracts and big money in 2020 cricket, 50-over cricket, or playing for Big Bash, IPL, whatever the 2020 format competition is, great. Make as much money as you can. That's fantastic. But don't lose what Test cricket is, because that is still the ultimate for any cricketer. Because we talk about the greatest players we've ever played with. We talked about the Saurabhs and Sevags and all these guys. I didn't talk about the 2020 time we played against them, or the one day. I talk about Test cricket because that was the drama, that was the skill, that was the patience, that was the real test of a person, their technique, everything. And that's why we just got to hope the modern day player still wants to play Test cricket and prove himself to be the best and not just worry about the money. If they prove themselves to be the best in Test cricket, they'll adapt and play 2020 cricket and they'll get the big checks for the 2020 cricket. But make sure you perform at Test cricket, and the best way to promote that is that everyone wants to play Test cricket. And that's why I've got a bit of concern about AB de Villiers at the moment not wanting to play Test cricket. He wants to play one days and have a bit of time off from Test cricket. We need the best players at all times playing Test cricket. So people come and play and watch Test cricket. And if you have the best players playing Test cricket, it's going to be a more attractive format to watch. And AB de Villiers is a quality player, one of the best batsmen in the world. Improvise, he's good to watch. So we need him playing Test cricket. The ICC need to spend money on Test cricket to make sure they promote that to all schools. They make sure they do a huge marketing campaign on Test cricket. I believe there should be like a £10 million or $10 million cheque at the end to the number one team player, the number one team, and it's all promoted through Test cricket. And that cheque then is up to that team what they want to do with it. It might go to charity. It might go to whoever. It might go to the players. It might go to grassroots cricket. But you've got to promote Test cricket. The ICC must promote Test cricket and not just the golden egg of 2020 and keep promoting that and do all those things because it's great fun and people watch. Put the money into Test cricket. If you promote Test cricket, the best players play and the captains take responsibility to try and win matches, people will come and watch because it's good to watch. If they don't, Test cricket will suffer. And who knows where it could be in 5 years, let alone 10, 20 years.
Well, Shane
That's
Warne,
what I believe.
Shane Warne, it's been an absolute pleasure and honour listening to you. Test cricket, Shane Warne versus Sachin Tendulkar. Doesn't get better than that.
Thank you.
And that's why it's terrific to have you at the
Thank you for
Salaam
having me.
Cricket Conclave.